Okay, so in this week's lesson, we're going to be blending the major and minor pentatonic scale to play over a slow, heavy Chicago blues. It sounds like this. All right, so we're going to break that entirely down note for note. I'll explain where all the notes come from so that you can steal them and use them in your own playing. That's really the idea behind this lesson, behind all the lessons at Active Melody. So in this video, we're going to go through the first half, the lead. I'll explain all of that. If you'd like to watch the second half, and then also download the tablature for the entire solo and get the MP3 jam track, which I have in multiple tempos, you can get the extra materials for this lesson so that you can practice playing everything we're going to talk through by going to activemelody.com and doing a search for EP604. Okay, so let me just talk about the tone that I'm using for this. I'll get questions if I don't. It's a real heavy sound, real heavy, dirty blues, and you know you wouldn't expect that out of this guitar. When you look at it, it just looks so meek and innocent, but it's got a real growl, and the secret to that is this pickup. It's an old D. Armand pickup. This is a 1950-something Vega Odell is what this is called. I haven't seen really any others. I mean, I know there's others out there, but this is the only one I've ever seen. I saw it at, or I got it at Guitar Center years ago. It was used, and I picked it up and played on it. I'm like, wow, I've got to have that. And I haven't done a thing to it. It was set up perfectly. All I've done is change strings. So this is essentially an acoustic guitar. So for those of you that only have an acoustic, you can play this. There's no heavy string bending. We're doing a lot of slides and things, but this, you know, these are 12 gauge strings on this thing, so you can play along with whatever guitar you've got. As far as amp sounds, I'm playing through a Line 6 Helix, and I'm using the AC30, which is a Vox emulator, and I haven't done anything to it other than crank the overdrive. It's at about 7 out of 10. So to give you an idea, like you don't have to go get a Line 6, but you can just use whatever overdrive you've got. There is a little bit of slapback delay and also some reverb on it, but other than that, I haven't done anything to the sound. The rest of it's all coming from this guitar, and the volume and tone are just cranked on this thing. Okay, so that's the tone setup. Don't let tone be a detriment to your playing, though. Like, don't get caught up in trying to get the right sound. Like, try and learn how to do this stuff, and then you can dial in the sounds down the road. To me, that's the more important thing, is knowing how to play, and then you can always improve your gear. Okay, so let's listen to this first little phrase. This song is in the key of E. It's just a 1-4-5 in the key of E. So we're going to start off playing over the E, and we're going to be staying in the key of the song. That's good news for a lot of you. We're not going to be worrying about, trying to match the chords or any of that. We're going to be doing major and minor pentatonic scale for the key of E. So E major and E minor pentatonic scale. Here's the first phrase. Okay, so I started off with this. And what I'm doing there is I'm doing a hammer-on between the 3rd fret and the 5th fret on the 2nd string. And these are triplets, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, triplet, triplet. And while I'm hitting that 2nd string, I'm also hitting the open 1 string, or that E string, letting that E note drone out. So in actual fact, you're playing 2 E notes, and that's what gives it that real fat sound like this. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do with just that one idea in the blues. You can you can let that E note drone out and get some real heavy, just cool stuff. It works great on acoustic as well. So that's the first phrase. And remember, we're playing in the key of E. So when I'm doing these licks, this is really E minor pentatonic scale pattern 2 in terms of where I'm at. Pattern 1 would be here. Right? With our nut handling all of those open strings. So, after that, the last time I did a pull-off. A little pull-off there between the 5th fret and 3rd fret, and then a pull-off again from the 3rd fret to the open 2nd string. Now that's a little tricky to do. If you can't do that pull-off for some reason, you can always just pick it. You could go like that. But it sounds better, it sounds cooler and more bluesy to do that little pull-off. And then I went and came down here. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going down to the 2nd fret 3rd string, then the 1st fret 3rd string. That note is your major 3rd. So that's our first instance of where we're blending and we're pulling a note from the major pentatonic scale. So, and then down to this 2nd fret 4th string. And that's just picked. And then you hit that low E. So this is an E here, and then you hit the octave below that on the open 6th string. So when we put that first phrase together, sounds like that. Then I do an upstroke on strings 1 and 2, and then watch this. Just to kind of close out the phrase. Now let me show you how to play this, and then I'll give you some ideas for other things you can do with it. So play the open 6th string, upstroke on 1 and 2 string. Then we're going to play our A chord, basically. I'm really only hitting strings like 2 and 3 out of that 2nd fret. Back to the open 6th string, real quick, and then a hammer on to the 1st fret on the 3rd string. So it's like this. And actually when I did that hammer on, I played more of the chord like that. It's just my E chord, but hammer on your index finger. That's all it is. Like that. So what you can do with that, you can use that as a little rhythm device, and I use that all the time. I hear a lot of blues guys doing it. If you're just hanging out on a chord for a while, it's a nice little filler. And watch this, since we're playing off that E shape, if I were to do it in a different, a different chord, like off this A, I'm doing the same thing. I'm hammering on that 3rd interval. This time I'd be using my middle finger. And then hitting its 4 chord, which would be the equivalence of your A. So in this case, it would be a D up here. And then back. I'm just throwing that out there as a little bonus kind of idea. Then we essentially repeat what we've done. This second time, I don't think I didn't do the hammer-ons. I just sort of hung out there on that 5th fret 2nd string. And then watch this. There's another situation where I'm going into the major 3rd, same note as here, right? Just an octave higher. And it's from the 3rd fret to the 4th fret on that 1st string. Open 1, open 2nd string. That's a great little major sounding lick that lives off of your E chord. And what's nice about it is, since you've got those 2 open strings, it allows me to reposition my hand and play whatever else I want. I can do something like, right? Or I could go, right? I can come all the way up here and hit a note because I've got the open strings. Just remember this, when you're playing pattern 2 of your minor pentatonic scale, so an E would be between your 5th fret and 3rd fret, you can hit that 4th fret on the 1st string. That's the major 3rd. That's a takeaway there. So after I hit that major 3rd, and then the open 1 and open 2nd string, I did this. that a cool little walk up? You can already hear it's pulling you to the 4 chord. But what I'm doing here, this would be just 2 notes out of pattern 2 of your E minor pentatonic scale. Right? So I've got my middle finger on the 4th fret 3rd string, my index fingers on the 3rd fret 2nd string. And this is a very important must-know area for the blues. Here's your E chord. There it is. And this happens all the time in the blues, with little triplets and all kinds of ideas. And what I'm doing is I'm picking the notes individually. So I'm going 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, like this. Down, up with the right hand. And then when the song transitions to the A chord or to our 4 chord, I just take that same shape and I walk it up 1 fret and then walk it up 1 more to get us to the A chord. And that is a big takeaway. I want you to walk away. If you get nothing else from this lesson, remember this one little technique or one little tip from playing the blues, going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. You know where that little lick is, right? Your minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. When the song goes to the 4 chord, you can always take that and walk it up into your to the 4 chord. And you can see it a couple of different ways. These 2 notes would be my E major pentatonic scale pattern 4, right? Or you can see them as being 2 notes out of your A chord using the E shape. It's your 3rd and 2nd string. It's just those 2 notes. So now you can sort of picture that A chord. Okay, now you see sort of why it works over the A chord, but it's also just 2 notes from your E major pentatonic scale. So once we get to that 4 chord, I played this little lick, came up to the 8th fret on the 2nd string, 7th fret, and I used my pinky for that, down to the 5th fret, and then down to that 6th fret 3rd string. So all together it's like, and what I'm doing there, even though I said I wasn't going to really play the chord changes, in this case I sort of am, because I'm thinking about my A chord here, using that E shape, and just like strings 4, 3, and 2. And when I'm doing that, I'm just sort of embellishing off of this A chord. That's like my A7. So after that A, then I play this lick that pulls us back to the E chord. Watch this. Right there. That's where the song falls back on the E chord. Now this lick is a great example of blending the major and minor pentatonic scale. So this little walk down, this little chromatic walk down, is a walk down on the 1st string from the 7th fret to the 6th to the 5th. And that's your E minor pentatonic scale pattern 3. So this is sort of that top string. And then we're going to walk it back down into pattern, really pattern 1. So we're going to go. Now from here, I'm going to use my index finger on the 3rd fret 1st string and do this little slide. So it's 3rd fret 1st string, down to the 2nd fret, down to open. Let me explain that. So when I did this, this is what was happening. Here's my E chord, right? This note is my E minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. This note, the one we slid into, is my E major pentatonic scale pattern 2. So inside of my E minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 is my E major pentatonic scale pattern 2. That's how I think of it. I've always thought of it that way. And it just makes it easy to blend these 2, and they sort of become one scale. And then I go down to the 2nd string and play 2nd fret open. And those 2 notes are also in my E major pentatonic scale pattern 2. And then watch this. So then we go down to the 3rd string, do a quick slide down to the 2nd fret on that 3rd string, which is my E minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. Open, 3rd, down to the 2nd fret on the 4th string. So we have, and then watch this. That gets us back to the 1 chord. do a hammer on. I'm just thinking about my E chord in first position. Hammering on to that first fret third string, and then an upstroke on the open one string. And when you put it all together, you have... Isn't that a cool lick? I mean, it just sounds so powerful. And a lot of what makes that work is the open strings. When you have those open strings, it just allows you to do things you couldn't do if you were playing in closed position. Get a different, heavier sound because strings can ring on top of each other. And then while the song hangs out on that E chord, I went... So let's look at that. That's a half bend on the second fret second string. And that's actually really hard to do on this guitar because these are 12 gauge strings. So it's like an acoustic guitar. But you can do this with whatever guitar you've got. Second fret, second string, do a half bend, and then release it. It's just dramatic, you know, sort of hang on to it. Open, second string. And then this lick, we do a slide on the third string from the second fret to the fourth fret, and then the open one string. And what I love about that is what you would normally play, like if you're sliding up from the second fret to the fourth fret, you do this. That's that go-to blues lick I was talking about, going into minor pentatonic scale pattern 2. But it's cool when you're in the key of E to hit that open one string. It's just sort of unexpected sound, at least to my ear. We go back to the second fret, and we do that same little hook where we do the hammer onto the first fret, third string, and then open one string, or 1 and 2 strings. Then the song goes to the 5 chord, which is our B7. And what I played there... Now I got this lick or this idea from Eric Clapton, and it's when the song goes to the 5 chord. He'll do this a lot in the blues, but I hear other blues guys do it too. Albert King will do it. I think Eric got this maybe from Lowell Fulson. I'm not really sure, but when it goes to the 5 chord, what happens is you can switch at that point and play the minor pentatonic scale of the 5 chord. You get this really nice pull in your lead. So you could do any of the patterns, you know, but so in this case, if we're playing in the key of E, our 5 chord is a B. So now we're thinking B minor pentatonic scale. So when it goes to the B, I could go, right? There's my B chord up here using the E shape. That's the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. You can hear how that works. And then it goes back to when the song goes to the 4 chord, you just switch back to the key of the song, which is E. So you just do it for the one instant of the 5 chord. And so when I'm playing this, what I'm doing there is I'm playing the B minor pentatonic scale pattern 4, which is right here. And I do this kind of little half bend here. Index fingers on the 2nd fret first string, middle fingers on the 3rd fret 2nd string. And hit those twice, and then we come down to the 3rd string and play 4, 3, 2. Walk that down chromatically. And that's all I did of the B, was that one little minor pentatonic scale idea there. But just walk away with that idea. When you're playing a blues and the song goes to the 5 chord, try doing some minor pentatonic scale stuff of the 5 chord. Then the song goes to the A, and I just came down and played an A, strings 5, 4, and 3 out of it, and then went, and that gets us back to the 1 chord. Now this lick is just E major pentatonic scale stuff. So here's E, right? Here's my E chord, and I've talked about this a million times, but let me just mention it one more time. When you're playing off of this E chord on the 2nd fret and the 4th fret, strings 6, 5, and 4. Those notes are all your major pentatonic scale. They're actually the bottom part of pattern 3, major pentatonic scale, right? But I just like how you've got the symmetry there of strings 6, 5, and 4, all on frets 2 and 4. It gives me all kinds of things I can do, and I use this all the time. I can play all these little licks, and that's where this lick comes from. Now it's starting on the 3rd fret 5th string. I'll put the tab up so you can pause the video and work it out. But that's the lick, and now you know where it's coming from. And so now I'm just going to continue playing in this area between the 2nd fret and 4th fret, this major pentatonic scale stuff. Right? That little slide there, by the way, where I hit the 5th fret and I did it in the previous lick, that's sliding into the minor pentatonic scale just for that one note, but it blueses it up. And then walk up to the 5 chord, that's open A string, 1st fret, 2nd fret. And I'll put the tab up for all of that so you can pause and work that out. And then you can play your 5 chord. If you're going to play the 5 chord after that, you're going to want to make sure you land on that 2nd fret 5th string with your middle finger so your other fingers can fall in place to play that B7. And that's where we're going to end this part 1 video. The second half, we're going to go through the entire solo again, and I'll have a whole new set of ideas. And we'll do some stuff up higher on the neck. I like to kind of go, jump around and do low stuff and then high stuff. So that'll be in the part 2 video. If you've liked this video, leave a comment and let me know. And let me know if you had any light bulb moments or if you just picked up some new stuff that you hadn't thought about. That's super helpful to me. And also, if anything is unclear, I'd appreciate if you just leave a comment and let me know, because I'll try and answer them. I do read all the questions. All right, we'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the second half.